Hello,
Two button.
everyone. There we go. We already started talking. This is me. I am Gareth, and I am here today with.
Hello, I'm TJ. The
Hello.
T in the G and T bit.
Hello. How are
Hello.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very good. So, basically, this is we're sort of winging it today.
Oh.
Basically, which we always do in everything we do because we don't like to
We
choreograph
decided.
anything.
Well, Gareth decided that we would be doing this podcast yesterday,
Yeah.
just because.
Why not?
So a day's notice, and this is what we're doing.
Yeah, just gotta
It's
take the
fun.
bull by
So
the horns and just get on with it, I suppose. So for those who are, well, very new to this and don't know me and TJ personally, we like anything from murder mysteries to horror films to conspiracy theories. We like a lot of the weird things, don't we?
pretty much, yeah. Um, we're like 2 hours into a phone call and discussing whether or not the moon houses aliens.
It does house aliens.
It
I'm
doesn't
telling
house
you now.
aliens.
I'm telling you right now. One day when that
It
story
doesn't.
comes out, you're gonna look very silly.
And yeah, we just love all that sort of shit. And we decided that because Gareth in his infinite wisdom was like, let us two white men do a podcast about murders. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay, yeah, let's do that. However, everyone and their mum does that. And so we thought we would zhuzh it up a bit by discovering cases we've never heard of before.
Hmm.
Um, Reading up on them and then basically like telling each other about them and whether they're wild or funny or brutal or whatever, like it was just kind of like a let's learn something new, both of us,
Hmm.
and then tell the other about it and see and just like talk about it and discuss it and maybe relate it to like other stuff that we've read and see where it goes really.
Yeah. So yeah, he's not wrong. I literally rang him up yesterday afternoon about what 4 o'clock, and I was like, "Hey, we're gonna do a podcast tomorrow, and it's gonna be about anything you want it to be about, and it can be about murders one week and mysteries the next week, and then good old fashioned conspiracy theories about yes, aliens living on the moon." So yes, I'm Gareth.
I do.
He's
I want to preface, by the way,
go for it.
the conspiracy theories bit when we discuss them, regardless of what conspiracies we talk about, because like I'm almost certain we're gonna end up on some weird conspiracy stuff,
Yeah.
like and some maybe controversial conspiracies.
Mm.
Doesn't mean we believe them. Just gonna preface that now. We don't buy into well, we might with some, but like we don't buy it. We'll disclaim which ones we do buy into and which ones we don't. But we're not gonna be like over here being like, yeah, totally, the Queen's a fucking alien lizard person. Like this is actual fact. No,
We're not
we're just
going.
gonna be talking and having a little laugh about it.
This is where we get like pictures of us doing this podcast from our PCs and see us wearing tinfoil hats the whole time.
Oh, I'm wearing a fluffy tiger snitty at the moment. That's what I'm wearing. That's my conspiracy
Oh my
theory.
god! So, so today we've got two murders that we both picked one each, a case each, and we're going to discuss it. I think TJ is going to go first, but um, my one I'm doing today is of a gentleman named Graham Frederick Young, and TJ's is.
She was born. Uh, well, I've lost her name now. Yeah, I lost her name. Bear with me. Hang on. I've got her heritage thing up here. So, her name is Nanny Doss, but she was born. What's her real name? Hey, professionalism.
The winging it.
Uh, nah, seriously, where's her real name? I had it right here. I swear. I was so prepared. I promise. So, her name is Nanny Doss, but she was officially born Nancy Hazel. So that's who I'm talking about today.
Okay.
She was also known as the Giggling Granny, or the Jolly Widow, as we'll come to find out.
That's one thing I'm gonna just quickly talk about before we go into your story first and your case is
Mhm.
every murderer has a really
Mm.
weird nickname, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Like
because the media just
everyone.
love their little tidbits. They're like, we got
Yeah,
to
they
talk about like
do.
a really brutal murderer. But we have to give him a nickname
Uh,
because it sounds cooler.
it does, but it's headlines, isn't it? And the
Hmm.
gentleman that I'm doing, well, if I can call him a gentleman, he was nicknamed the Teacup Poisoner.
Oh wow, that's
Sort of rolls off the
that's what it
tongue.
says on the tin, isn't
Yeah, literally.
it?
Um,
You don't really need to ask why that man is in trouble.
no, he's there poisoning teacups and doing his stuff, I guess. So
Yeah,
yeah, today's cases are of Nanny Doss and Graham Frederick Young. So take it away, show us your case, and let's
cool.
discuss her case.
First of all, I know this is completely off topic, but I do want to say you need to watch a film, and I need to
Okay,
watch it as well because I've heard the soundtrack of a film called Journey to Bethlehem. Mate, it
right,
slaps so hard.
okay.
I have never wanted to watch a movie about the nativity in like so much in my life. Anyway, because I've got the song in my blood stuck in my head, and I just needed to get that off my
I'm guessing
chest.
it's a comedy thing, right?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's like a fully serious film, but like it's got Antonio Banderas as King Herod, and like
Okay,
it's about Mary and Joseph getting married, having baby Jesus,
yeah.
and going to Bethlehem. And like there's a song called In My Blood where it's about like King Herod's son, where he's gone, hey, kill all the babies across the Middle East. And he's like, yeah, let's do this. And he's like going on this killing spree and he's like reflecting on himself, going, oh, this is a really bad thing I'm doing for my dad.
Wow.
It's so fucking good. We should watch it, all of us,
Yes.
me, you, Martin, and Sarah.
Yes, we should. That could be arranged.
Anyway, sorry.
That's
I will
okay.
I will start.
Go for it.
Okay. I had a little structure that I was gonna do. Where is it? Okay, so I'm just going to quote just the opening of an article that I found
Hmm.
on allthat'sinteresting.com. Um, an article titled "The Story of Nanny Doss, the giggling granny who spent decades murdering relatives and husbands."
Hmm.
Nanny Doss seemed like a sweet lady. She smiled and laughed all the time. She married, had 4 children, and spent time with her grandchildren. How lovely is that? It's
Hmm.
lovely, isn't it?
Nice start to a
So
lovely lady.
essentially, I know, right? So our Nancy Hazel, uh, Nanny Doss, was originally born in 1906, I believe.
Hmm.
Yeah, 1906 in Alabama. To parents James Hazel and another one, but her mum doesn't really come up in um most of her stuff that people write about.
Okay.
The heritage thing I'm reading off, by the way, is Alabama Heritage, is mostly where I'm getting most of my stuff about her early life.
Hmm.
So apparently, Nanny's um, Nanny's dad specifically was apparently like really abusive to her, and her and her siblings, and got them working on the farm, and basically just like refused to send them to school, and was like, "No, you're going to be farmhands. You're going to be workers, basically."
Okay.
Ill-tempered man, as you know, pretty much as we're finding out, most people were in like
Oh
the
yeah.
1900s
Hmm.
if they were farmhands. Uh, it doesn't say whether he was a drinker or not, but he didn't. Apparently, he wasn't a very nice man. Apparently, she was going by the name of Nanny by the time she was 5. So, like, Nanny's pretty much like
Hmm.
that her name. Like, my name's TJ, but I'm not actually called TJ.
Yeah.
Um, apparently, at the age of 7, uh, she suffered a head injury due to her being on a train and it stopping suddenly, and like her smacking her head on a metal bar in front of her. And this is what, and I've got to like look at more interviews about it because I've only read articles, but this is what she claims. She always refers back to this incident whenever talking about what she did, as if like she was trying to like not like dodge blame, but be
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, I'm like tapped in the head because I hit my head as a kid
So how old was she
on a
when she hit her
train.
head in the train? She was young, right?
She was 7. Yeah, she was 7.
So wow. I mean, if it depending on how bad it was, and they said it was a head injury, then that
Yeah.
obviously is a massive thing to look into to what maybe could have changed her sort of course of path of life. I mean,
I mean, to be fair, that her demeanor when she was arrested. I'll get to that in a minute. But her demeanor when she was arrested, she's not a normal person.
Okay.
But with like just by what I'm reading, I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna put it down to the head injury. I'm gonna put it down to her being just fucking weird. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah. Okay.
because
It happens.
she, yeah. So there's one quote from her. Where is it? There's one quote from her where she says, "I was searching for the perfect mate, and just like her other husbands, just weren't good enough."
Wow.
Um. So yeah. So let's go play by play to her different husbands. So apparently, she killed 12 people between the years of 1920 and 1954.
12.
However, she was only convicted for a single murder, for only one.
Wow.
Um, Louisa was her mum's name, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, um, let's have a look. So at 16, she marries a man by the name of Charles Braggs. Charles Braggs was her co-worker at a linen factory that she was working at. Um, she married him because her dad was basically like, "Oh, this man's a good match for you. Marry him." Um, sorry, I might burp. Hang on. I hope they didn't hear that on the actual recording. So they got together when they were 16. And they got married after just 4 months of dating because things moved ever so fast back then.
They did.
Um,
Very quick.
very quickly, as fast as that train as well that she hit her head on. Um, they didn't have what was this? Yeah, okay, so like it was weird because they married and Charles's mother moved in with them. Um,
Wow. What?
and
When they
I'm
got
pretty sure Charles
married?
was, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, that's not what you
Um,
need, is it? I mean, come on. I mean, if you want
no,
any sort of form of contraception, just invite your mother over. You know? Wow.
honestly, it's the biggest concepts to just like move your mother-in-law in. Um, yeah, so it was weird because like I'm gonna just assume it doesn't really go into depth too much about him, but I'm gonna assume he had a bit of an odd, almost like Norman Bates like relationship with his mum
Okay.
because I mean, why would you? Oh, I suppose they were young, so maybe that makes sense actually
Hmm.
because they were young. And he might have just been like, oh well, I'm not ready to leave my
But
mummy
you hear
behind.
but you hear stories, don't you, of people, especially back in that era, getting married at young
Mm,
ages, and they basically just get on with life, don't they? Because
yeah,
they
pretty
don't have the
much.
things that we have today, where they have to just get
No,
raised up
yeah.
by their parents to do stuff, and back then it was the male went to work and the female stayed at home and looked after the kids, sort of thing, wasn't it? So,
Yeah, and like from, hang on. Oh man, I'm really gassy today. Sorry. So, so yeah, so like back then it was sort of like it was normal to almost like get married after a very short amount of time, and
hmm
even like young people getting married. I mean, back in like 1900s, and obviously this is not factual, but like the life expectancy for a normal person was like what 60,
it's
80,
it's a
at 60,
lot
70.
less than what it is today, I'm
Yeah, like
sure.
a hell of a lot less. And by 1923, it was even. Well, I suppose it would be even less because of the First World War. So like
hmm
people were getting married like real quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they married roughly in about 1923. They had 4 kids between 1923 and 1927. So they were together for about 4 years. And during that time, Nanny became like really stressed and basically uh started drinking and just being just very unhappy.
hmm
Uh, One day, Charles comes home and finds that 2 of their daughters had died,
Wow.
and yeah, so apparently they were like healthy as a horse, like they were fine, and then he comes home and they're dead. Um, I
Suspicious.
don't know whether they were dead at home or whether like they had died whilst he was away.
Hmm.
And then the whole thing, it doesn't really go into specifics, but He'd come home to find. Oh, no. He'd come home to find his daughter's dead. So he went to work, came home, daughter's dead.
Wow.
The local doctor did an autopsy and he ruled it was food poisoning. Now, it's never confirmed that Nanny did it, but he left. Basically, like the moment he found out about this, he left
Wow.
and he took
Okay.
their other daughter, their eldest daughter, with him, and never went back to her. And so he left the youngest daughter, but kept the eldest, and I don't know why. It was very weird.
Probably because it would
Um,
probably be easier for him to look after. I mean,
yeah.
it's hard unless but then again, it's weird from his point of view. Like if you just come home to find two of your children, like dead from
Mm,
food poisoning of all things. What the hell were they being fed?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I know, right?
yeah.
It's really weird, but again, she's never like charged for it, and she was never arrested for it because it was never proven. But Charles pretty much thinks that it was her. Um,
Okay.
so feeling unsafe, he took their eldest, Melvina, bless the lovely name, bless her heart, Melvina, with him. Start that again. It's yeah. He took their eldest daughter, Melvina, with him.
Hmm.
So when he left, Nanny basically became responsible for the youngest daughter, Florine. And here's the kicker:
Right.
he left his mother-in-law with her. He left his mum with her,
What?
so he clearly didn't get along that much with his mum
How
because he
so?
fucked off
Like
without her.
he walks in to find his two children passed away. Oh, it's all right, ma. You'll be fine. I'm sure
Yeah,
Nanny would look after you. And
Malvina, come here, mum. You stay.
yeah, like it seems that way though, doesn't it? Like
Pretty much, yeah.
that's I mean, if I have children, like they'd all be coming with me, especially my mother. Like, damn, crazy.
So basically, after he left, they eventually got divorced. Um, and just from what I've read about her, I'm pretty sure he was the only one that she didn't kill. Because he just sort of like up and fucked off. So he got lucky.
He survived basically. Then he's like the only
Pretty
survivor.
much, yeah. It's highly speculated that that was the start of her killing spree, but I reckon if he'd stayed long enough, she probably would have done him in.
Yeah, yeah, more likely.
Okay. Now this is mostly all the winging stuff because I didn't get a chance to read that this
Hmm.
far before we started. But her second husband was called Frank Howson, like Woody. Um, so, so Nanny put up a Lonely Hearts advertisement in the paper to find her next husband. Now, I think she did this purely because she was like really lonely and she was like, "Oh, shit. Even though I didn't enjoy that time, I should probably have someone with me."
Yeah,
Frank answered the ad, obviously, as you do. And they fell in love and they got married.
bless him.
Uh, so the couple lived with Nanny's daughters. Hang on a second, that's odd. So it says here on this article that I'm reading from historydefined.net um, that they lived with Nanny's daughters, Malvina and Florine. But I thought Malvina was taken by the previous husband. Oh,
Unless he
fair enough.
gave her back, it could be that thing when you get divorced. Usually back then, wouldn't it? The child would go to the mother because it was the maternal thing to do. Like it's
That's
again
true.
different from today's
Yeah,
times.
yeah, that's a good. That's a good point. So it wasn't long before Nanny, lo and behold, realized he was an abusive alcoholic.
Oh,
Um, but she endured the abuse for 16 years.
wow.
So she was with him for 16 years. That's mad. That's
That
insane.
that is a
That's
that's a long time.
that's her whole life before she married Charles Braggs. Like, that's a long time.
That is a very long time.
Um, so while she was married to Frank, Malvina got married. She had two kids, and um, Malvina's daughter was born um, shortly after she was married. Wait, hang on. So shortly after Malvina's first daughter was born, uh, Nanny was rocking her to sleep, um, and suddenly she just died uh, because that shit happened. I guess like back
Okay.
then. Um, and Malvina accused her. She claims to have seen her stick a pin in her daughter's eye.
Fucking hell, that's
But
wow.
yeah, yeah. So I think this was like almost like minutes after she was born. And Malvina swears that she saw her mother stick a pin in the baby's eye. Like, this is fucking wild.
I mean that
Um,
yeah.
but she was like still groggy after like childbirth, so she didn't really know. But I mean, given what's happened and her future endeavors, I wouldn't put it past her, to be honest.
Yeah, I just think that's but like of all the things you could do, like if I mean, she's obviously not right, is she? I mean,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
also if that was real, like right in front of her daughter as well, like God, the balls
yeah,
on this woman.
but you see that with a lot of people. Like, and again, like this woman is obviously groggy, so it's like, did she do it? Did she not? Obviously, there might be an autopsy report that's going up. I don't know, but for the sake of it,
Yeah.
as we know right now, and I know nothing about this woman, I
Mm.
mean, you hear a lot of things about serial killers, well, or killers in general, who love to have that. They love to be seen doing something they shouldn't be doing, and they get off when they get away with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It seems like because she's known as like the Jolly Widow, but just reading her like early stuff, she's a huge kid killer, man. Just
Yeah.
this bit here says, half a year later, half a year,
Hmm.
6 months, right? Malvina left and left her son. Oh no, so she didn't leave. So basically, like Malvina, she left her son Robert under her mum's care. So I'm
Right.
assuming like she went out and she was like, "You look after her. You
Hmm.
look after him." Um, Lo and behold, Robert mysteriously died from asphyxia.
What?
Just yeah, and the worst part about it is Nanny cashed on Robert's death his $500 insurance money.
Wow.
So I'm gonna go ahead and rule that as she definitely killed that kid, like 100%. There's
Um,
no way you cash in on the death of a child in insurance money like that.
but why would you have insurance money for a child like that, though? That's what
Why
I.
would she have insurance money for the child? That's what my thing is. Like, why wouldn't Malvina have it?
Yeah,
But
but the thing is, right, if
Nanny
you
has it.
look at it, let's go way back to the first children of her children that died from food
Yeah.
poisoning, allegedly, right? Then
Yeah.
years later, she's just like, oh, well, I've got a newborn granddaughter or grandson, and oh no, there's a needle I'm going to stick in his eye. And and then years again goes on later. Oh no, don't leave him in my care because he's not gonna survive, is he? Well, clearly fucking
Mhm.
not, because he's no longer here. And not just that, but you've got a fucking cash sum coming out from somewhere, from an
Yeah.
insurance scale. What the hell? Not just that though, right? But from the mother's point of view, why would you leave your son with your grandmother, who you know is not clearly stable?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very, very clearly unstable woman. Um,
That's
and she
very
seems
weird.
to have a habit of like children dying around her. And I'm like, a lot of like the children stuff is like speculation and alleged, like
Yeah.
reportedly. Um, but I'm just saying, four kids have died around her
Mm,
directly now. Like, whilst
yeah.
she's been with them. So,
Yeah, it doesn't
call
look good
me
for her,
call me
does it?
crazy, but it doesn't look great.
Wow.
um. Okay, so hang on. Oh, so this one just goes straight into it. So later on down the line in Nanny and Frank's marriage, she decided to mix Frank's favorite alcohol, made him a little drink to be nice and lovely,
Hmm.
and she just added a dash of rat poison in there for him, and then
Oh,
killed him dead.
Jesus. Killed him
See
dead.
that one, I think I out of all of the murders that we've been discussing here specifically for her, I'm going to go ahead and rule this one fair game because he was a prick.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know,
I mean, agreed. Like, largely
yeah.
agreeing on that one. But w- another question is, who just has rat poison in their back pocket? Like,
it was common as shit back then.
oh,
Rat poison
it
was like
probably
flying off
was.
shelves.
It probably was because I know they used a lot of it because there was like outbreaks and stuff
Mm,
going on, wasn't there, and shit. But I don't
mm,
understand, like, of all the things so far, it doesn't seem the usual way. I know the other ones are not particularly, outlined as saying she did it and she killed
mm.
these children, but if she had a past of doing it, then could she have been using this rat poison stuff on the kids, her first kid she had? It just seems,
Maybe.
yeah, it just seems really weird. But I mean, fair play to lady for like, you know, defending herself and saying, "See you later, I had enough of
Yeah.
you."
Yeah, basically she took advantage of it because apparently he was in the middle of a drinking binge already, so he was already
Oh, so he
drunk, so
wasn't
he
to
wouldn't have
know then,
noticed.
was he? Yeah.
See, this is what I was like, hang on, like surely he would have noticed, but apparently he was already half cut by that point.
Wow.
So
Okay.
he had no idea. Um, so he popped his clogs. Death husband number one dead, gone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, third husband, Arlie Lanning. So another ad, she put up another ad after he died. Put up
Okay.
another advert being like, "Love me," in the newspaper, and Arlie Lanning responded to this one. Says okay, so it says so I'm going to quote directly here from the article. It says from the outside they seemed like a completely mismatched couple, as Arlie was known to frequent prostitutes while Nanny was a respectable member of the local church. Oh, by the way, this is another a little detail about her that I think nobody had any suspicions. This is
Okay.
why no one was picking up on anything because she was like a huge like member of the community.
Okay.
When her first two daughters died with Charles, um, and when Charles left with Melvina, um, there was like huge outpour from the community and support for her. Basically, being like, oh, when we know you're going through a hard time in this and the other, and massive support from the community around her to
Mm-hmm.
her. And she was a big member of the local church. She did like she was a very doting, loving granny, basically.
Yeah, seems it.
So no, back then no one would have
Yeah.
a clue that this was going on. Nowadays, if someone, even a granny, was like super pure, like member of the local church, huge member of the local community, anyone that's like super pure these days, I'm like, right, let's look into them. They've done something wrong.
Yeah.
But back
But
then, no one batted an
you
eyelid.
do though, don't you? Because like
Yeah,
all the like,
100%.
I mean, we're what? It's now the year 2024, so
Yeah,
there's so many people who have been so lovely and caring and nurturing on the outside, and
yeah.
you think you can never trust anybody these days. That's
No,
the thing. You
and
really can't.
I've I've learned from like various other serial killers. Like if someone's like really nice to you, they either want something or you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Because like um you know most serial killers they're like super nice to you. Like Jeffrey Dahmer was super nice to his victims
Mm-hmm.
before he drilled holes in their heads and poured acid in their
Yeah.
head. Um fucking Ted Bundy was like really charming and lovely
Mm-hmm.
before he bludgeoned women to death. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, like, if someone's like really nice and like making an effort to be like super nice, I don't trust it. I'm sorry, I don't. There are like a handful of people where I'll go, yeah, maybe I'll give you a pass, but a large majority of people, I'll be like, nah, look into them. They've got at least 4 bodies in their closet. So, uh, so yeah, Arlie was a big uh, purveyor of the women of the night, as I'd put it. Um, So when Arlie died, he died after days of dizziness and vomiting, by the way.
Okay.
And because of who Arlie was, the neighbors were like, "Oh, Nanny, you poor woman, poor you." And like all of the support went to her, and was like, they again big outpour of support, being like, "You must be going through such a hard time." Like, and then there's her just sort of sat pretty with her rat poison in her back pocket, being like, "Next one's up."
Yeah, well, it seems that way though. I mean,
Yeah.
how many times has somebody got to die in this lady's house before the neighbors start thinking maybe she's the problem? Like,
Honest to God, like seriously, the amount of people that have died around her, and people aren't like, let's put two and two together, shall we?
yeah, Yeah.
She's surrounded by death, and it's really
I
weird.
mean, she is the Grim
Like,
Reaper for some people.
yeah, if I was a middle-aged man, right, and I was getting married to a woman, especially if I was responding to a Lonely Hearts ad in the newspaper, and I found out that her previous husband had died, I would, before I go any further, I want to know why he died.
Yeah.
Like how and why he died, and if it's suspicious, if it's like not natural causes, I'd be like, I'm out, I'm done. I don't care what else it is. If it's not natural, we're done.
It seems to me that this, that Nanny Doss, she's making like the first sort of interpretation of Craigslist with this Lonely Hearts ad
Literally, like
thing.
she's like the 1920s equivalent of the Craigslist
Yeah,
murderer. I'm sure
like,
that's a thing somewhere.
oh, it's gotta be. I mean, but the thing is, why does this lady not go out? Like, doesn't she meet people at her local church?
Apparently not.
It just seems really odd, doesn't it? Like, you
Well,
love
here's
putting these
I
adverts
suppose
out.
if you were to if you were to like pick someone up like in person, you'd have liability for it. If you were to do Lonely Hearts ad, they'd be like, oh, I didn't really know him, and they turned out to be an asshole, and then they died. Oh
True.
no, what a shame.
That is true, actually.
Um,
Yeah.
and I suppose back then a lot of people drank as well, like drank alcohol. So
Mm-hmm.
she could just say, oh, he drank a lot, and he was just like puking and dizzy for days because he was drinking a lot,
That's
and
true.
then he died. Um, so here's here's the thing that really like messed her up as well a little bit. So after he died, she thought that their marital home was going to go to her, but then
Okay.
learned that Arlie had left it to his sister in his will.
No way.
Yeah, yeah. So she was surprised and infuriated. Nanny left the house. Oh wow. So I don't know how like corroborated this is, and I'm
Okay.
hoping this is legit. And I've looked into various like sources and stuff like that, and there are like some um some what's the word, consistent themes.
Right.
Right, but this one says, surprised and infuriated, Nanny left the house, which then moments later burned to the ground. And then she cashed the insurance out on it.
Wow.
She cashed, she then cashed the insurance check that belonged to Arlie's sister.
That's fraud right there. Like,
That's lit. She is committing so many crimes: the
like,
fraud, the murder, the
that's not just
arson.
fraud, but that's like theft as well. Like, and
Yeah,
arson. Oh wow. I mean, she's yeah, maybe that sudden stop on the train did sort of like make her go a bit cuckoo. I don't like yeah.
just a bit. Yeah. Um, it says here, now homeless, Nanny went to live with Arlie's mother. I'll give you three guesses what happened to his mum shortly after she moved in. I
Well,
shit you not. She
from
fucking
I
died.
was gonna say from the things that we've already like know about this lady, it could either be done by strangulation, rat poison,
Oh,
or good old fashioned food poisoning at this point.
this is insane. Okay, so this last fucking paragraph is wild. So she said now homeless, Nanny went to live with Ali's mother, who mysteriously died shortly after. Homeless once more, Nanny went to live with her ailing sister Davy, who also died shortly after she moved in.
What is wrong with this woman?
Now, see, here's the thing, right? It doesn't attribute Arlie's mum and her sister's death to her. So
Right.
what I think has happened is they've both died because they were super old.
Okay.
Or Davy at least was ill. Like, she was like notoriously sick. And Arlie's mother, I'm assuming, was like old. Um, because each like paragraph it says number of deaths that could be attributed to Nanny, and it's only stuck at 3 so far. So
Okay.
Um, so it doesn't attribute those deaths to her. However, I just think it's really weird that this woman is literally surrounded by death.
Yeah.
Everywhere she goes, people die around
I,
her.
I mean, she'd like you'd be like one of those people. Well, I would be if I was her. I would have one of those billboard things you put over the top of your clothes saying "Stay away, I will kill you." Like,
Yeah,
I
honestly.
wouldn't want to walk anywhere near that lady.
She's like that cat in the nursing home about that story about a couple of years back, where like every time it wandered into a resident's home,
They died,
that
wasn't
resident
it?
died hours
Yeah,
later. Yeah,
yeah. That was a
she's
crazy
like,
story.
yeah, she's a bad omen. If I saw this bitch coming in the street, I'd be walking the other direction.
She is literally the incarnation of the Grim Reaper. She's there. Like
Literally,
whatever
yeah,
she
she's like a
touches,
granny
they
grim.
die.
Yeah. So her third husband. Is it a third? We on her third? One, two, three. Yeah, fourth.
Fourth, yeah.
Okay, so we're on a fourth husband. So Richard Morton is her next husband. So it says Nanny was still not ready to give up on love because why would you be? After everything that's happened, why would you want to give up at this point?
Hmm.
So she paid $15 to join a dating service. And then she met Richard Morton, who is a retired Kansas salesman.
Okay.
Uh, Apparently he seemed like the perfect partner, but he didn't satisfy. But yeah, so it said he didn't satisfy Nanny, who reportedly put up an ad for her next great love while she was still married to him.
What the hell?
This woman, oh my god, what an icon. Um, so oh man, this is wild. So okay, yeah, so while she was still married to him, she was like, right, bored already. So she put up another ad. Um, so her mum then came to live with them as well. Decided to live with the couple, and that basically messed up all her plans. Um, so it says here, so Nanny decided to remove two obstacles on her quest for a final husband. Louisa died of supposed intestinal pains, while Richard met his end whilst drinking coffee laced with rat poison.
Bloody hell.
Fucking wild. Oh my god, this is insane.
Yeah, she has to be involved in the other children, right? Like, it
She
just
has to be, yeah, yeah. She can't not be at this point. It's
no, it's
wild.
just yeah, it is wild. Like, like you said earlier, going back in that sort of time era, yeah, okay, internet wasn't around yet, phones may
Yeah.
have been, but the fact that all these people have died around her, she's had like three husbands at this point, she's now on her fourth,
Hmm.
and nobody seems to satisfy what she wants. It's really odd. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I don't know whether she wants the big house, flashy car sort of scenario, but I mean, just be grateful for what you're having because there's a lot of people back then who
Yeah.
didn't have any of that.
Yeah, so apparently like most of her like driving force in all of this was like she used to read romance magazines, her mum's romance magazines when she was a kid.
Okay.
So I think what happened is like during like all that shit that her dad put her through, whilst reading all these magazines, she just had this like unrealistic ideal of love in her mind.
Hmm.
And because none of these people were matching what she read in those books and those magazines, she just thought, well, I can just get rid of them, right? Instead of just because I suppose back then divorce was like it was pretty frowned upon. Like a
Yeah.
divorced woman,
Hmm.
it didn't look good.
No, not with kids either.
No, exactly. And like society basically was like, oh, well, that's bad. So I suppose if she was widowed, it would be so much easier. And she had an excuse then to be like, oh, I can move on and do what I want with my life because she didn't have that sort of like back then the taboo of divorce lingering over her head.
Hmm.
Um,
Makes
Although she
sense.
did divorce her first husband, but you know. Um, so her final husband, Samuel Doss, which is weird that he has the same second name as her. I don't know if that's because he took her name or his name was Doss to begin with. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
So she met Doss, um, and he was from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Good old
A
Tulsa.
real Oklahoma.
Oh yeah.
Um, so apparently he was like really, really strict with money though, and she left him and moved back to Alabama. Um, Quoting from the article, Samuel must have really loved Nanny because he drove 700 plus miles to beg her to come back to him, promising he wouldn't be too stringent with their finances. Big mistake.
Flipping heck. Wow.
I'm wondering how much these people know about her previous partners and
Nothing.
husbands because yeah, they can't know anything, right?
Well,
There's no
not the
way.
truth at least. I mean, anybody could say anything back then, right? Because nobody had prior knowledge to anybody unless you go and ask her neighbors. But it seems like she's moved
Yeah,
a lot of times from having this home then going homeless. So yeah,
that's true.
it seems like she's very much on the road a lot of the time. So she stays put for a short period of time and then goes, "Oh, sorry,
Hmm.
you're gonna get whacked. Bye bye," and then off to the next person. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe even back then, like you said, time moved really quickly. Like her first husband, they got married after four or 6 months. I think it was about. So
Yeah.
it was yeah. Maybe as plus when you're getting older, your time is running out faster. So it, yeah,
Mhm.
it's weird.
Yeah, and it's because you did make a good point. I didn't sort of like click onto that. Like, but she has after it seems after each murder, she just moves on to a different like city
Mm,
and like fucks off for a bit, and then obviously because no one's gonna like look up who you are back then. So once you've moved and you go, oh, I've not had any husbands before, then you've just got that person's word to go off.
yeah,
Um.
basically.
Oh, would you like to know how Samuel Doss met his fate?
Please do. Let's hear it. Let me guess. Rat poison.
Well, not quite actually.
Oh,
Not
okay.
quite.
Surprise, surprise.
Um, so after taking him back, Nanny took him back after he begged her to come back.
Okay.
Um, and when she did take him back, being the lovely woman she is, she took out two insurance policies with her as beneficiary, on
Wow.
his name, and they celebrated. They celebrated because they were really happy. So they celebrated with a little with a homemade prune cake. And Nanny put arsenic in
Of
it
course she
because
did.
as you do.
But that's
Um,
weird. Who in
I
their
know.
right mind would celebrate having a life insurance put on them?
I think the celebration was them getting back together. I'm pretty sure. I don't. It's the article's worded weird, but I'm pretty sure the two celebrated um reuniting basically, and
So
not the insurance
so
policy.
from this end, uh it sounds to me then that she basically said, well, she probably played this whole story, right? Like, oh well, we're not getting any younger, Mr. Doss, my lovely husband.
Mhm.
So I don't want to be on my own and be penniless. So could I put a life insurance claim out for you in case you do die before me, and then it will all go back to normal. And oh, we can now have
Yeah.
some prune cake. Oh no, I didn't realize that this wasn't baking soda. Like, wow, that's
It might have been the case that like she was like, "Oh, if you want to prove that you're not going to be stingy with
hmm,
money anymore, how about you take an insurance policy out and give me all of your money
yeah.
if you die, just to prove something?"
And
And
the
he
poor little
stupidly
bugger was
went
like,
ahead and
yeah,
gone, "Yes."
all right, I'm lonely. I'm not going to find anyone. I did travel 700 miles to come and get you back. That's the least I could do.
Literally.
Like, wow.
Um, Also, I just want to amend something. I did say, "Oh, Samuel Doss." I don't know why they have the same second name. Stupid. I'm dumb. I'm such a dumb, stupid boy.
Okay.
They don't have the same second name. Her name is Nanny Doss. As of the time of her arrest, she was known as Nanny
Oh.
Doss.
Oh, okay. There you go
She
then.
took his name. She was named Hazel before Doy.
Wow.
Um, so I'm dumb there. But he miraculously survived this arsenic-laced fruitcake.
Okay.
So he survived and he was hospitalized for weeks, right?
Hmm.
And he actually recovered. And she was like, "Oh shit, oh dear, oh, I'm so happy you survived. Um, let me make you like your favorite meal, and here's a coffee lined with arsenic."
God.
so so he survived his first poisoning, and she was like, "Shit, didn't work the first time." So she dumped a bunch of arsenic in his coffee the second time she tried to poison him. Um, Obviously he died because he's just ingested 2 doses of fucking arsenic in like a matter of weeks.
Jesus.
Um, and the doctor who treated him for the second poisoning became highly suspicious, and so she was arrested. Um, because the autopsy came in and they were like, "Yeah, no, this is arsenic. He was poisoned." Um,
Wow.
and so they arrested her. So it said, I don't know if it says in this article. Yeah, no, it does. Okay, so So Oklahoma authorities arrested her at this point because she was living in Oklahoma.
Hmm.
Um, and shortly after she was arrested, instead of confessing, she started laughing and flirting with the police officers.
Like, this is not a trying to put another love fucking heart ad, in the
No,
police
like
station here, Nanny. Come on.
this is what dubbed her the giggling granny, is because like instead of being like remorseful when faced with her crimes, she just pissed herself laughing.
I mean, So, but then is that a case of her trying to come out as clinically insane, or is
I
she
don't know.
literally
She did
clinically
eventually.
insane?
Um, I think she is a bit tapped because apparently, when confessing to the murder of Sam Doss,
Mhm.
um, hang on. Oh, okay, yeah. So she confessed to the murder of Doss because the detectives wouldn't let her watch her favorite TV show, and that's why she confessed.
She, uh, what?
I know, right?
So she did like a little bargain.
So,
Oh yeah, I'll confess if I can go and watch, Benny Hill. Like,
well, no, I think it's because I think what happened is she was like, "I want to watch my favorite TV show," and they were like, "No," and she kept asking, and they kept saying no. So she was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, I might as well just tell you then. I killed him."
like,
Because she wasn't getting anything out from it, so she was like, "Yeah, I killed him. Fuck it." And then shortly after, she admitted to killing three other husbands as well.
I mean, Jesus, didn't take him very much to get out of her, did it? Like, let's just put a TV in front
No,
of her so you can't watch it. Like,
literally, and the one of the wildest things, right, is that she admitted to killing four out of the five of her husbands. She was only tried for one. She was only tried and sentenced for Samuel Doss. That's it.
even though
Even though
she,
she confessed about the other three.
what that makes no
Yeah,
sense, does it?
it's crazy. She didn't admit to the other killings of her family, like their daughters and her mum and stuff.
Yeah,
That's but yeah, apparently she was only tried for one murder, which is nuts considering she told them that she was responsible for four.
that's a bit odd.
Yeah, I think it was because she got a life sentence. She was spared the death penalty. I think because she was old, so they didn't want to bother with it. Um, but I think because she got the death sentence, and they knew she was going to get a death sentence for what she did, they just didn't bother trying her for the others because they knew she was going to be sentenced to life anyway if she ever went to court.
Yeah,
Um, there's speculation that she was spared the death sentence because she was a woman, but it's never been really corroborated. Others say, like we've said, that it's because she was tapped, which is why she wasn't given the death sentence.
yeah.
Um,
But I mean,
yeah, just a
how
bit.
many people do you have to kill to get the death sentence? It just seems really odd. I mean, we're going
There is
back
a grey area,
years.
isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, but if you go back towards oh god, the 18th century, 19th century, even back then, if you stole like a sheep, you got put to death.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
sheep. Like that's you trying to feed
Yeah,
your family. Like today, if you stole a sheep, you'd probably get a fine and say give it back. But like back then,
times have changed.
you put that sheep up your top. You can't be having that sheep up your top, mind. You gotta give him back. And but here you
You're
go.
dead.
Yeah, go back to your family, say goodbye. Have a noose within the hour. Like it just.
Yeah.
But this lady, fucking, suspect. I gotta say, she killed her kids, right? That's what
Oh,
I think.
100% she killed her
She
kids.
kills
You
her
definitely.
husband. She burns down one of her husband's houses and takes his bloody insurance claim from his sister and cashes it in.
Hmm.
And yet,
Yeah.
no one batted an eyelid to that. Like,
Yeah. It's
wow.
crazy, isn't it?
But it's okay. It's okay, Nanny. You'll get life in prison, love. We won't put you on a chopping block just yet. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild that she was allowed to because even if she was just going to be sentenced to life, right? She wasn't going to get a death penalty, whatever. Symbolically, she should have been charged for all of those murders that she confessed to, at least.
Yeah.
Like the ones that she didn't confess to should have been looked into, but the ones she didn't confess to should have at least been put on the record to be like, we're also charging you another three life sentences for the other murders.
I mean, yes, considering that she
Um,
said, I've done it, why couldn't they?
yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it was like for their equipment back then. Could you retest bodies? I don't know. But for the sake of what's happened and the fact
Mm.
that there's an arson thing behind her, and she hasn't even been brought that up to anybody, that's really weird. And not just that, but the cashing in the life insurance thing that
Yeah, like
Her other
that's the
husband
most
had.
highly suspicious part. Is like when someone dies. I get life insurance is supposed to be cashed in. That's the point of life insurance. But
Yeah,
when you've got two husbands, no, when you've got three husbands under your belt that have died under your marriage, and you take out two more insurance policies,
yeah,
if I was the insurance
it's
company,
weird.
I'd be like, "You've done this before.
Yeah, yeah.
This is odd."
This is your fourth time now, Nanny. What's going on, love?
Yeah, it's real fucking weird. Um, But yeah, so she got sentenced to life. She went to prison. She did have an interview. I haven't seen it, and I've really been wanting to see it. But she had an interview with a newspaper in 1957.
Hmm.
She does. She looks, from what I've seen, like clips of it. She doesn't look like she gives a fuck about like what she did. Um, and she shortly died after in 1965 of leukemia.
Wow.
Um, So, yeah, she was pretty tapped. Let me see if I can find anything else
I mean, she
on her.
doesn't sound of wow health, does she? I mean, maybe that bump on the head when she was younger. I mean, they all say this though, even in modern times. Like, um, the head of any child up to a certain age is very, very critical. That you should not like hit it. You should not do anything with it, whatever. And that's why they
Hmm.
believe even back towards the late sorry the early 20th century where people were hitting their kids because it was deemed to be the right thing to do
Yeah.
for someone who was misbehaving. Whatever they used to hit them with, at least to be bouts, whatever they could
Hmm.
get their hands on it, they'd attack their child with to get them to shut up and behave. And we have no idea what psychological thing that had changed their course of path from doing that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's
Yeah.
bizarre.
It's really weird. And all of the photos of her confessing, there's a site on all that's interesting. All the photos that are attached of her, are of her shortly after she's confessed. She's signing her statements, and I shit you not, she's smiling in every single one of them.
That's creepy.
Yeah, she's so fucking tapped. But that is the giggling granny, aka the jolly widow. Um,
Wow.
not really
Th- th-
being
That's
remorseful for
that's
any of her crimes.
that's really funny. That it's not funny. But the case isn't funny. The thing that I find funny is that we've both had the choice at random to pick whoever the hell we wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
My fellow here, Graham, he was a massive poisoner of using things
Oh,
to
was
poison.
he?
Yeah, so that's
See,
weird how
they always say
we've
poison's a woman's weapon, don't they?
They say that because it's an easy thing for
Hmm.
someone to do. Because, like, again, back
Yeah.
in that time, the women were the
Yeah.
women of the house, weren't they? And they used to cook
Yeah. And they're
everything. So,
smarter about it.
yeah, to a
Because
degree,
like
yeah,
women are smarter about it when it comes to like offing people, because men would just like go in guns blazing with a knife or a tire iron and just be like, kill, kill, kill. Whereas women are like, I want to actually get away with this, so they're
yeah,
going to be smart enough to use poison.
yeah. It's mad. But so that's your case of Nanny Dostin. That's your case finished. I'm
Nanny
guessing.
Doss, yeah, aka Nancy Hazel, the
Nancy
giggling
Hazel.
granny. Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna go on to my one now. Um, again, that was a very interesting case. I never heard of that one, and I do want to research that one some more
Maybe
because
till
that's
yesterday.
yeah, that is really really weird. Very
Hmm.
fascinating case for someone who had so many husbands and no one thought to think, oh, let's go and see who set the fire to this house.
Not a single question.
No,
Not a single question.
just a doctor. The doctor did more police work than the police did. Like,
Yeah, like
wow.
years later, the doctor was like, "That's weird."
Yeah, we should have seen that, guys. Come on, boys, let's go and get her. Oh, she's been caught now, sir. The doctor did it. Oh, let's give that man a medal. Oh no, don't. He did a job more than we did. Yeah, I just think that's weird. Anywho, going on to this one. So you had a killer from the US.
Hmm.
This killer that I researched today is from the
Hmm.
UK, from our lovely country that we
Lovely.
reside in.
Our home turf.
Our home turf, indeed. And the funny thing is this gentleman only had three victims.
Oh, okay.
Only three. So his
Right.
name is Graham Frederick Young, aka the Teacup Poisoner.
Love.
And yeah, so Graham was born in Neasden, North London, on the 7th of September 1947, to Fred and Bessie
Another old
Young.
one.
Yeah, another old one, yeah. Unfortunately, his mother developed pleurisy during pregnancy and died of tuberculosis 3 months after he was born.
Shit.
So yeah, not a good start. So
Yeah,
devastated
not
by
great.
her death, his dad was like, "I can't take care of you, so I'm gonna go and send you off with your auntie." Um,
Hmm.
and his sister was given to his grandparents, who was called
Right.
Winifred. So, yeah, so Graham, bad luck in life. Basically, his mum's just passed away after not long, literally after he'd been born. He's now been given to the care of his auntie, and his dad is basically, yeah, doing his own thing. Excuse me. So then, Graham spent the first 2 years of his life with his aunt and his uncle Jack, and became very close to them. When his dad came back and remarried in 1950, it's only 3 years basically after he was born. He's remarried.
Yeah.
He's
Question.
go for it.
Did he ever help his Uncle Jack off a horse?
Did he ever help his Uncle Jack off a horse? I don't know.
Okay.
Why?
Say the sentence again. Just say it again
Which
out loud.
part?
The question, what I asked you. Did he ever help his Uncle Jack off a horse?
Oh my god. That caught me.
Anyway, sorry,
I
carry
was
on.
literally thinking, how is this young boy of like 3 gonna help his Uncle Jack off a horse? And not until I like read it out loud, I was like, "That's naughty. That's terrible." So
Carry on.
yeah, basically, his dad remarried in 1950 and wanted
Hmm.
to reunite his family again in St Albans, with his new wife Molly. So
Hmm.
Graham didn't necessarily like this. I mean, your first 3 years as any sort of child, you're gonna get attached to people, right? And he thought his
Yeah.
aunt and uncle were, well, they didn't. He didn't think they were his mum and dad, but he was very close to them, and he's sort of seen them that way.
Yeah.
Um, so he didn't like being separated from his aunt, and he had signs
Hmm.
of distress from being away from his aunt and uncle. And then he went to become a rather peculiar child of being on his own, very solitary. He didn't make any effort to talk to people his own age. He was just very much in himself, and he liked his own
Hmm.
company. Now, this is where it gets into the interesting bits. So, when he was old enough to read, he favoured non-fiction accounts of murders. Um,
Oh God.
yeah, I know, and he was reading a lot
Big
of.
red flag.
Yeah, just a tad. He was reading a guy called Dr. Crippen. He's apparently an infamous poisoner. I don't know who that
Oh
is.
God.
That'd be something to.
Google him right now.
Yeah,
Carry on.
but
I'll
apparently he
look.
was a particular favorite of Graham's to research and read. By the time he reached his teens, he had developed an unhealthy fascination with, guess what, Adolf Hitler. Yeah, and
Oh
took to wearing swastikas, um, and basically telling people that Hitler was just misunderstood. That he wasn't an evil
shortly
man.
after what happened as well. Jesus
Yeah, I know. It's
Christ.
not that long.
Fuck.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a couple of years. It's not that long. So, yeah, he sort of like saw Hitler as this person who was doing good to the world, and yeah, a bit fucking weird. And he also read widely on the occult, claiming knowledge of Wiccans and local covens, trying to involve local children in bizarre occult ceremonies, which involved
Oh
sacrificing
God.
a cat on one occasion. So, yeah,
That's the first bad sign in it. You're killing
yeah,
animals. That's
well,
what I
yeah.
say.
I mean, if my son came to me and was like, "Hey, Dad, yeah, Hitler wasn't a bad man, really, was he? Just misunderstood the Jews," and it's like, "Nah, yeah, stop it, like, goodbye, you'll
Yeah.
go, you."
No, 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 no. Don't do that.
No, don't, please don't say that in public. Like,
Stop it.
it's
Stop it
bad
now.
enough you got two gay dads. You're talking about Hitler being a misunderstood bloke. Bless him. He's not even born yet. I don't have a child. That's just, that was just something I made up in my mind. But yeah, so he had this thing about being this really, really weirdly, like weird boy with really bad obsessions on things that he shouldn't really be reading for his age. Um, So
Just sort of a side note as well.
yeah, go
Dr.
on.
Crippen, his name is Hawley,
Okay.
Hawley.
Yeah.
Hawley Harvey Crippen. He wasn't like a notorious murderer. He was just hanged for the murderer's wife.
Oh.
Um, yeah, he killed his wife. Well, she like disappeared and he killed her. But he was a homeopath, ear and eye specialist and medicine dispenser. Who basically like the reason his like thing was so infamous is because he was the first ever criminal to be captured with the aid of wireless telegraph.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's who
That's
Dr. Crippen
different.
was.
That's
It is
pretty
just a bit.
crazy.
Hmm.
So
Carry on.
as time went on, and he was also going to school and whatnot, his interests, well, his only interest was chemistry,
Ooh.
forensic science, and toxicology.
Mhm.
But obviously, we were going back into times like 19. It's got to be like 1956 at this point. So
Mhm.
unless you're paying to go private in the UK, if you're just going to a normal public school, then it's going to be very basic like chemistry stuff, right? Like you're going to
Yeah.
probably see one Bunsen burner for like one class. Like you're not going to
Yeah.
have the whole shebang of everything. So he didn't have, he was very limited basically from what the school could teach him
Yeah.
in these ways of chemistry and whatnot. So
Right.
again, he loved reading. He loved reading about all science and stuff to do with different chemicals and what would do what to somebody and whatnot. And he got that sort of into it that his dad was like, "Oh, brilliant! I'm going to encourage you, and I'm going to buy you a chemistry set." Why we?
After
Yeah.
comments about him enjoying the company of like Hitler
Hmm.
or Nazis
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah, well, real smart decision on the dad's part there.
Yeah, and this is where it gets even weirder, right? Because
Oh
his
God.
dad buys him this set, and
Hmm.
he just, yeah, it was all he had time for. He reclused into
Oh
this chemistry
shit.
set, and he was just mixing shit, and he
Mm.
was trying to make things that he was reading to see if he could make it at home, and all this sort of weird stuff. And
You know, I swear to God, right? Parents will do anything to shut their
they
kids
they
up, including
will,
encourage them to be a goddamn murderer.
yeah.
Being like, oh, Hitler had a point. Here, son, have a chemistry set,
Yeah, I
and
I
just shut
know.
up and spend all your time with that.
Yeah, yeah. By the age of 13, Young's knowledge of toxicology enabled him to convince a local chemist that he was in fact 17, and he procured a dangerous
Wow.
quantity of the poison thallium, a heavy metal
Holy
thallium.
shit.
Yeah. Um,
Oh my God.
yeah. How the fuck does a 13-year-old like? Oh, I'm 17. I want some thallium. Um,
Yeah, like,
okay.
man, that is insane. Like, just because he knew a lot, they were like, oh, you must be old enough. They can't possibly be young knowing all this much.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we have IDs now.
Oh yeah. So he gets this thallium, right? And yeah, like, and it's not just that, but he gets arsenic as well for in
Oh
quotation
God.
study purposes, right? So
Of
keen
course.
to put his knowledge to the test of poisons, his first victim was a fellow science pupil called Christopher Williams, who suffered an
Oh,
extended period of vomiting, painful cramps, and headaches due to this administration of a cocktail of poisons that basically Young was like, here you go, have a bit of that sort of thing.
Jesus.
So experts were baffled of why Williams was ill, but Williams was very lucky to survive because of the amount of shit that Young was pumping into him, basically.
Mm.
So Young, obviously doing this on school time, he could never sort of see the effects of what was happening when Williams got home. So um, yeah, here comes the weird thing. Because he couldn't check about what we was doing when he was at home and if he was still being ill, he decides to start doing this shit on his own family.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, a big backfire from the dad there, then, isn't
Very big backfire from his dad.
it?
Like, yeah.
Here, son, have a chemistry set. Oh, I don't feel too well. What's that all about?
Yeah, why am I frothing at the mouth? Like, why do I all of a
Jesus
sudden
Christ.
need to
How old is he
spew?
by this point?
He's in his early teens, so he's only like
Jeez.
13 odd. Yeah, he's not old.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So when the family began to show intermittent signs of poisoning during the early part of 1961, Young's father initially suspected that Graham might be the one harming the family by the use of his chemistry set at home,
Oh
of
my
which that
god.
he bought him. So
Oh my god.
Young, being who he was, denied the accusation of poisoning the family.
Right.
Um, and the potential for deliberate poisoning was never considered after that, basically, especially as Young had been ill also. So there's that sort of thing.
So he
Wouldn't
microdosed himself.
maybe maybe he would. Yeah, it just seems really funny, doesn't it?
Because
That
if he then let me get this straight. I don't know if it says in the article you're reading from, but like, did he? So Young poisoned his family. Did
hmm
he also become sick during this poisoning? By the sounds of it,
um. So yeah,
or were they?
basically,
Is this them questioning the dad?
no. So the dad is questioning Graham, like
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay. But so Graham's also ill.
yeah. So because Graham's so ill, they don't really see any deliberate signs of poisoning. Because they're all
Oh,
thinking, oh,
okay.
maybe we've all had like a dodgy flu, or
Yeah.
I don't know, there's something.
I reckon he's microdosed himself just to skirt blame.
Maybe it could be that easy. Um,
That's really psycho.
yeah.
That's
Um,
planned.
yeah, it must be like, but apparently, Young had also been ill, sorry, on a number of occasions. So not just once or twice; it's a number of occasions, and it
Oh, okay,
remains
fair enough. Yeah.
unclear whether this was a way to design to avoid detection of him doing stuff
Oh,
through
fair enough.
scientific interest, in case things were seen. So,
Yeah.
or if he was just careless of which teacups he had put the poison in, and
Mm,
he just forgot, and he still thought, "Fuck it, I'm gonna have a cup of tea anyway because it's Britain and we all
yeah.
drink tea and eat toast." Um,
Yes, absolutely. And
yeah,
crumpets.
and crumpets. So with all that going on, when Young's elder sister Winifred was found by doctors to have been poisoned by belladonna in 1961, Young's father
Wow.
again suspected Graham, but took
Yeah.
no action, none at all. Right?
Wow.
Yeah,
What
Molly.
the hell?
I,
Why?
I know Molly, Graham's stepmother, became the concentrated focus on Young's attentions.
Oh,
Sorry,
Jesus.
yeah, but he didn't like her. Like that's
Oh, dear.
evident. So gradually becoming more ill until finally, on the 21st of April, 1962, she was found by her husband writhing in agony in the back of the garden that night. In the home, yeah, she was rushed to hospital and later died. And the cause of her death was determined as a prolapse of the spinal bone, and she was cremated, not surprisingly at Young's suggestion. Yeah, I know this young kid is
Oh,
basically
wow.
saying, "Let's just
Wow.
cremate her. The stepmother, you're gonna get burnt." Like, yeah,
I love the fact that like that's like super already super suspicious,
hmm
and then like this young teen is like, maybe we should cremate her.
yeah,
If I was this doctor, I'd be like, who the hang on, right, you're a child. What?
yeah, yeah.
Why are you like you're not it's not like, oh, I'm upset. I don't care how my mum is like buried or cremated or whatever. I just want to like say goodbye. It's like, no, just straight to cremation. Let's get rid of all of the bones and like get rid of
hmm
everything.
Yeah. So
What the
basically,
hell?
with no further
So was she
action
his first
taken,
victim?
yes, she was. Yeah, first one that died. Yeah.
Good lord.
So, with no further action taken at the time, it was later discovered that she had developed a tolerance for one of the drugs that he was using, poison, sorry, that he was using. Uh,
Mm,
I think it is antinomy, which Young
right.
was slowly poisoning her with. But he then
Mm.
switched to thallium the night before her death to speed up the process
Jesus
to kill her.
Christ.
Yeah, there was massive reports of further nausea and vomiting
Oh,
attacks at the funeral. Clearly, the death of his stepmother was not dulled Young's scientific curiosity. So they believe that he was spiking people during the fucking funeral, um, of his stepmother, Molly. Yeah, very very weird. Um,
that is
it's sick, isn't it?
insane.
Yeah, I know
Like
it's bad.
even like at the funeral, instead of just like taking a break, just taking a small break from it, he's like, nah, nah, I'm gonna have to like let's see what happens like a mass experiment.
hmm
Let's do it at my mum's funeral.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
it's like
Already under suspicion as well by his dad.
yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it?
That's if I was his dad, like I'm sorry, but I'd kick him out. I'd be like, you're not coming anywhere fucking near me.
Yeah, yeah. I think I would be
Because
too. I mean, especially what's been
yeah,
going on
like
with the family, and no one gets
yeah,
ill until you buy him a chemistry set. How funny is that?
literally, like that's the thing. Like, and it's always around him. Like, it's people in his immediate vicinity that are getting ill.
Yeah,
And with he's already his dad's already super suspicious of him, right?
yeah,
His mum dies, and he's like, "Oh, I'm almost certain my son's killed my wife."
yeah.
And then everyone at the funeral starts being sick and like getting ill. At that point, I'd be like, "Get this little bastard out of here! Seriously, get him out of
Yeah,
here!"
I
I'd go
mean,
to the police. Fuck that.
well, that's the funny thing because following Molly's death, Fred Young's attack of vomiting and cramping became more frequent and increasingly
Oh
severe,
god.
and he was also admitted to hospital where he was diagnosed with antimony poisoning. He was lucky to have survived his son's experimentation, but could not. What's that mean? So basically, he was lucky to survive it. But again, like he didn't know if his son was doing it. Basically, but then Young's school chemistry teacher, who contacted the police, discovered poisons and copious materials in fucking Graham's school desk. So he was
Oh
keeping
my
them in his
god.
desk at school. Like, yikes! That's a huge red. But then again, doesn't it show this happened over a number of years? So they
Yeah.
hadn't checked anything of his desk the whole time that he'd been there doing this stuff.
Yeah, and like I'm sorry, but like if you're like of a certain age and you're showing interest in something like chemistry, and it's like an unhealthy interest, an
Mm-hmm.
obsession,
Yeah.
someone would need to have looked into that before.
Yeah, and that's the
Like
thing.
if
Like his dad was like, "Yeah, I don't know," but it took the responsibility of his science teacher to be like, "This isn't right. Like, what's going on?"
that's crazy. And he was still a kid by this point as well, like a
Yeah,
teen.
yeah, yeah.
It's
He's
fucking wild.
yeah. So basically, after he was found with all these like materials of poisons and whatever else he had in his bloody desk, Young was sent to a police psychiatrist where his encyclopedic knowledge of poison soon became apparent, and Young was arrested on the 23rd of May 1962. He admitted the poisoning of his father, sister, and school friend, Williams, but no
Mm.
murder charges were brought against him for the murder of his stepmother, as any evidence had been destroyed at the time of the cremation.
Oh
Yeah,
shit,
so
that
he was
clever
very
bastard.
smart. Yeah, so he's technically still 14 now, and he was
Yeah.
committed to Broadmoor Maximum Security
Oh
Hospital.
shit, at 14.
Yeah, and he's the youngest inmate there since 1885, and he was there for a minimum period of 15 years at
Get
14.
me.
Yeah, there's
That's
even
his whole life.
pictures. Oh yeah, there's pictures of him out of court going to Broadmoor, and he's
Mm.
very young. Like you wouldn't
Oh
sort of suspect it for looking at the pictures.
yeah.
So yeah, so he's in Broadmoor, um,
Mhm.
but he was in there, and
And that's not the end of
unfortunately,
it.
no, no, no. Uh,
Oh, I love it. I love it.
yeah, he's in Broadmoor, but it doesn't stop his enthusiasm, shall we say, for experimentation. So,
Yeah.
um, weeks of being there,
Mm.
there's a death of an inmate called John Berridge, and he was
Right.
killed by cyanide poisoning.
Oh
Um,
my god.
yeah, it had the prison authorities baffled. Young claimed to have extracted cyanide from laurel bush leaves, but his confession was not taken seriously, and Berridge's death was recorded as suicide. On other
The
occasions,
fuck?
I know, right? You've got a guy who's been known to poison his family, and it's like, I wouldn't be him. No, he wouldn't do it. Like,
Like this fucking kid has been like sentenced for poisoning, not
yeah,
murder, just
just
poisoning in
poisoning.
general.
Yeah,
And on his record, it must have been on his record, even though he wasn't charged for it or tried for it. On his record, it must have been that like it was highly suspected that his mum died of the poisoning because of him. And this motherfucker goes, "Yeah, I fucking extracted cyanide from leaves. I know have cyanide in them.
yeah,
I did it." And they're like, "Oh, you silly little boy, you
yeah.
didn't
He
do
wouldn't
it."
do it. No, you're in prison. He wouldn't do that. So yeah, he basically got cyanide from a leaf and killed somebody with it.
That's wild.
Yeah, and that's not even the worst part. So it was recorded as a
I love
suicide.
this. It's this sort of shit that I love, where it's like,
It gets
I know it
worse.
sounds really morbid, but like it's so planned out, and
Yeah.
because he's so young, it makes it so much worse.
It does for and this lad's like 15, like 14, 15 at
Yeah,
this point. He's nobody. Like you wouldn't suspect him, especially in a prison like
fucking hell.
this or a hospital, sorry, like this. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's get recorded as suicide and it moves on. So here comes the other thing. On other occasions, staff and inmates' drinks were found to have been tampered with, including the
Oh my.
introduction of an abrasive sodium compound called sugar soap, used for preparing
Right.
painted walls. He put it into a tier, and it caused a mass poisoning. And had it not been discovered, he would have continued to read widely about poisoning, and yeah, it was crazy. But he
Wow.
did begin to keep his obsession increasingly well hidden. When authorities made it
Well,
clear
it's not
that
that hidden though, is it?
no, clearly,
It can't
clearly
be that
not.
hidden if the entire prison comes down with poisoning, and the child who's been put in Broadmoor for poisoning is like sat right there, and they're like, I don't think he's still into poisoning. I don't
Hmm.
know. I think he doesn't like chemistry no more."
But he did it. He only did it because the authorities made it clear that appearing less obsessed with all this chemistry stuff would speed up his release. Yeah, that happened.
But surely context matters.
Uh,
Like, no one's looking at all of the other, like, the poisonings that are happening around Broadmoor and going, "Now this kid's not into chemistry no more." Like,
yeah,
it's fine. He's not obsessed with it no more. It's fine. These poisonings are just
no.
coincidental.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. It's very weird. Like it just seems to be like, oh, he's only a 16-year-old kid. Let's just get rid of him. Like,
Yeah, I think they just wanted him out.
yeah,
They must have just wanted him done.
I just find it very, very, very bizarre. So, by the late 1960s, Young's doctors seemed oblivious to his continued fatal fascination and recommended in June 1970 that he be released as he had been cured, quotation marks. Young
Saying that,
celebrated.
right.
Go on.
Sorry, just a side note. Broadmoor has like a history of doing this though, because they did the exact same with Charles Bronson when he was like
Yeah,
constantly like violent in Broadmoor,
yeah,
in order to like make it so, and even after the riots, in order to make it so that they wouldn't have to put up with him anymore, they certified him sane and they released him,
yeah. True.
just so they didn't have to like take care of him and like waste taxpayer money on him.
But this is the weird thing, and I don't think even I don't think even Bronson did this.
Oh
So,
God.
after he was going to be released as he had been cured, Young celebrated by by informing a psychiatric nurse that he intended to kill one person for every year he had been in Broadmoor.
Thank
The
God.
Yeah, the comment was recorded on his file, but amazingly never influenced the decision to release him.
Wow, we love the early mental health system in the
Oh
70s. Don't
yes.
we just love it? Oh my God. What the fuck?
Honestly, yeah. And so he was released on February 4th, 1971, and he's now aged 23. So he was there for a significant time of his life.
So he's still quite young as
He's
well.
still
Like,
quite young.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
for
old.
I mean, he had a lesser term because
Mm.
he should have been there for 15 years, but he was out
Yeah, he
way
should have been there
before that.
till he was like 31.
Yeah, 30 odd at least, yeah. So,
Mm.
yeah, he got out at 23 and he went to stay in a hostel, but had contact with his sister Winifred, who had then moved to Hempstead. Following her marriage, despite having been poisoned by him, she was more forgiving than her own father was, who initially wanted nothing to do with Graham. So she was concerned by his fixation of his crimes, right? And
Yeah.
he took a great delight in visiting scenes of the past crimes, thriving on reaction of his old neighbours in Neasden when they recognised who he was. So he was like, "Oh, I'm just going to scroll through town,
So
you
he's
know."
like full on serial killer at this point, like reveling in what he's done, going back to where he did it, like
Technically,
fully tapped at this point.
technically not serial killer because there's apparently I didn't know this, but it just because you kill more than one doesn't mean you're a serial killer.
No, but I just mean like the mentality where
Oh yeah,
he's going
oh
to
yeah, his
revisit the crimes. He wants to
mentality.
be involved and he wants to see what happened and like
Yeah,
see the reactions of people. Like, he's gone full psycho.
yeah. So he's gone back to his hometown where he's poisoned not just his family but his schoolmate, and he's like, "Oh, look
Hmm.
at me, I'm back, bitches."
And a
Uh,
bunch of other people at his mum's funeral as well.
yeah, and he did it for the reaction of his neighbors to be like, "Why the hell are you doing back? Like, what are you doing back here? Like, you shouldn't be here."
Wow.
And he did that all because it gave him a bit of attention, which is
Shit me.
which is just random and weird.
That's oh my god.
So here we go again then. So here we go. So Graham, he made trips to London where he stocked up on.
Bearing in mind as well, sorry,
Yeah, go
I
on.
just want to note out that how invested in this I am. Like you said at the start, he only killed 3 people, right?
Yeah,
Bearing in mind, at this point, he's 23. He's poisoned probably dozens
numerous.
of people, and he's only killed one at the moment so far.
Yeah,
Oh wait, no, two,
two.
because of the
Yeah,
bloke in prison.
yeah,
Yeah,
two.
so there's still one more to go.
Yeah. So
I'm loving
he
it.
made trips to London where he stocked up yet again on antimony and thallium and other poisons required for his experiments. And a fellow hostel resident, 34-year-old Trevor Sparks, was soon exhibiting the familiar cramps and sickness associated with any proximity to Young. So
My God,
he's doing it again. So another man he
Jesus
befriended
fucking
experienced the
Christ.
same thing.
Hmm.
And he experienced that much agony that he took his own life. Yeah,
Wow.
he must have been in some sort of pain. Um,
So was that death attributed to Young then?
no, because it says here, although there was no connection to Young was established at the time. So it
So he got a
seems
free kill.
basically, but it wasn't reported that he'd done it, so it didn't go on his list.
That's wild.
Yeah, that is really wild. So it just gets even weirder, man. Like, so basically, years have passed on, and Young has found work as a storeman at John Hadland's laboratory.
Oh
Yes,
God. Oh fuck, he got
laboratory.
himself a job at a goddamn lab.
Yeah,
What the fuck?
a photographic supply firm in Hertfordshire, where his new
Right.
employers were aware of his Broadmoor stay, but not his history as a poisoner. They might have had some reservations given the easy availability of poisons such as thallium, routinely used in photographic processes. But he had,
That's
in
why he
any
went there.
case, already secured his poison supply from an unsuspecting London pharmacist. So he didn't get it from work; he already had it.
Yeah,
Um,
he just had easy access to it in case he like ran out or whatever.
yeah. So his willingness to make tea and coffee for his co-workers raised no
Oh my God.
concerns.
Oh no.
Therefore,
Oh
and when
no. Oh
Young's
no.
boss, 59-year-old Bob Eagle, began to experience severe cramps and dizziness, it was attributed to a virus thought to be doing the rounds, known locally as the Bovingdon bug, which had
Right.
afflicted a number of local school children. So they thought, oh, the kids have got it, we got it. It's that term, isn't
Mm.
it? Whatever the kids have, you will get at some point because,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
kids are little buggers and they give everything to
They're
everyone.
like carriers, aren't they?
Yeah. So, other Hadlon workers complained of similar cramps, but none were as severe as Eagles, who curiously seemed to recover when off work ill, but instantly became sicker than ever on his return to work. And, he was eventually admitted to hospital where he died in agony on the 7th of July 1971. His cause of death was recorded as pneumonia.
No way.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah.
Like even after an autopsy report, surely thallium. What's the chemical name?
I've lost it. Hang on. Where is
Is it
it?
thallium?
Thallium, yeah.
Thallium. Surely that comes up. Hang on, I need to Google this. Whether this comes up in
Well,
autism,
that's the thing.
autism report, autism,
Autism.
autopsy report. Does thallium come up in autistic reports?
God.
I'm gonna look super dodgy on my Google things
So,
now.
so basically, while you're searching now, I'll just continue going through the
Yeah,
case.
you carry on.
So, in September 1971, 60-year-old Fred Biggs began to suffer similar symptoms to Eagle, and general absenteeism had an increased. So basically, where things at this workplace have been getting more and more increased,
Mhm.
what's going on with employees
Yeah.
suffering a variety of unusual and debilitating,
Debilitating.
yeah,
Yeah.
ailments, including usual cramps. But now it's got hair loss and sexual dysfunction and various other
Jesus.
things, and it's becoming a bit like a lot more increased, and it's not looking very good. So various
Yeah.
sources were considered, including water contamination, radioactive fallout, and leakage of the chemicals used at the firm itself, but no real progress was made towards the actual cause.
Right. Just as a side note as well, I've just googled it. Thallium, you can detect thallium in an autopsy report.
So
Increased levels of thallium, so you can detect it in
uh-huh.
an autopsy report. So that people, the coroners who did the autopsy reports, are looking at the thallium levels of these people, going, "This is normal. This is completely normal."
But it all depends because you don't have to have a coroner's report. You can go ahead if someone's died. You haven't got to have a
Oh,
coroner's
that's
thing
true.
it.
Because if it's not, yeah, I suppose if it's not counted as suspicious, they won't even
Yeah,
bother doing an
no.
autopsy.
So to this
Oh
poor
shit!
guy,
Yeah,
to Bob, he's just come down with this really bad bug and it's just killed him. Basically, to his family
yeah.
anyway, and to other people. So
God.
yeah. So they've had this thing. They are accumulating this random amount of illness from radiation poisoning or leakage of chemicals at the work firm, and
Mm,
even including a water contamination. But
mm,
none of that sort of came to light. So Biggs was eventually admitted to the London hospital for nervous diseases,
right.
but took a long time to die, a cause of some frustration to Young, who recorded his displeasure in his diary. Yeah, he put it in his diary. But he eventually
Wow.
succumbed on 19th of November 1971, again in excruciating pain.
That's four people.
Technically not, because he didn't get done for the other one, did he?
No, he didn't get done for the other one, but he definitely did it.
Yeah, yeah.
He absolutely did it,
But
didn't
these are
he?
these are the ones that have been recorded by police to.
Oh, but they're like officially charged for.
Yeah,
Okay, fair
yeah.
enough. Yeah, yeah.
So the second death raised great concern within the firm. By this stage, about 70
Mhm.
employees had recorded similar symptoms and there were fears for personal safety. The doctor on site tried to reassure staff by insisting that health and safety rules were strictly adhered to and was
I'm sure
taken
they were.
aback, yet, when Young challenged him in front of his colleagues, quizzing him on why thallium poisoning had not been considered as a cause. Yeah.
Wow. So he has gone full serial killer. He wants recognition for his
Oh,
crime
yeah.
now.
Oh, yeah.
He's like fully like, "Hey, you're not clocking onto the fact of what I'm doing, and it's
Mm.
pissing me off."
Yeah, so I'm gonna just out myself in front of everybody and say, "Oh, so Doc, why is thallium poisoning not being considered for this case of people that have been, suddenly dropped ill and
To
died?"
be fair, even that, right? Even the challenge to that doctor, I don't think. Well, I mean, obviously, I'll hear more when you read on, but like,
Hmm.
even I don't think even that would raise suspicion because the factory, the lab has thallium in it, and
Yeah.
the guy knows a lot about chemicals, and it doesn't take a genius to be like thallium poisons people.
Yep.
It could be that. Like even that, even if I was the doctor, I probably wouldn't be too suspicious of that. I'd be like, oh, I never thought of that. It's a good point. I'd be like,
Yeah.
odd that you were the one that brought that up, but
Well, this
we
is
move.
where it gets funny because after doing this, um, because obviously, Graham was like, "Oh, we're using it in the photographic process,
Mm,
whatever." The doctor was
yeah.
surprised at the in-depth toxicological knowledge, exposed
Mm,
by Young, and brought it to the
right.
attention of management, who then basically alerted the police. So Young's sort
After
of like
all that
saying,
time.
yeah, Young's like, "Oh yeah, but thallium can do this and thallium could do that, and it's
Oh
definitely going to
shit.
be thallium poisoning, Doc." And
He's like detailing all of it, going like, oh, I know it
yeah, he must
in
be.
intimate detail what thallium poisoning does.
Yeah, he must be because the doctor was like, okay, you know a lot about thallium for a lad who's like in his
Mm,
20s or 30s at
yeah.
this point, whatever. You know a lot about stuff that you shouldn't normally know if you're just working as a
Yeah.
photographer practitioner. It's
Yeah.
it's very odd. So yeah, they alert the police, and yeah. Subsequent forensic inquiry revealed that thallium poisoning, the first recorded case of deliberate poisoning by this heavy metal ever recorded, Young's poison conviction was soon unearthed, as were his collection of poisons and his diaries recordings of what he was doing. So he wasn't, he wasn't just keeping it to himself. He was
No.
basically, recording. And not just that, but he had a diary recording explicit dosages. So he had things
Yeah.
like 1 milligram would do this, 2 milligram would do this, 5 milligram may kill that person outright. He had this whole thing in his diary that he kept everywhere with him.
So he was like full mad scientist. Like he
Yeah.
by definition he was a scientist. He was like, experimenting
Hmm.
and recording his experiments. That's
Basically. Just,
man, what the
yeah. And it
fuck?
was all, it's in his possession. He was always with him.
Yeah.
So he was arrested in Sheerness, Kent on the 21st of November 1971, where he had been
Mhm.
visiting his father, and a quantity of thallium was found on his person while he was there.
Oh god, he was gonna do it to his dad.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, why wouldn't he? There's
Probably
everybody
gonna kill his
else.
dad off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under interrogation, he admitted verbally to the poisonings, but refused to sign an admission of guilt. He clearly relished the notoriety that his
Yeah.
day he would have in court would offer him. So he
Yeah.
didn't say that he was guilty because he wanted to show off in court what he'd done.
Wow.
Yeah. His
That
trial
is
commenced.
mental.
It's mad. This guy clearly isn't right. Like,
Yeah.
it's very, very bizarre that he was, someone hired him from Broadmoor, but they didn't look into what he'd done about the poisonings. Like, they knew he was
Mhm.
there, but he was let out, on a lesser sentence for good behavior.
Mm.
And he's now poisoned these people, including his boss.
It's it's such a shame, right? And I'll sort of speak more on this after you're done, but it's such a shame that like someone that fucking smart
Yeah.
wasted their life by doing this
I
shit.
know. Yeah, I know.
They he's not a stupid kid. Like he was doing this when he was 13. He's
Hmm.
a smart kid.
Yeah.
And he just fucking threw his life away by being an absolute psycho.
Basically. Yeah.
God,
So he was
what a waste.
commenced. His trial was commenced on 19th of June 1972 at St Albans
Yeah.
Crown Court, and he was charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder and two
Right.
counts of administrating poisons. Young pleaded not guilty and seemed confident that he would be acquitted, as his previous conviction could not be entered into evidence, and he felt it would be impossible to identify him as the only person with the means to poison Eagle and Biggs. He was delighted at the media hype that surrounded his trial and did his best to appear sinister in an attempt to unnerve the jury and assembled gallery, but was reportedly less than thrilled with the with the name the Teacup Poisoner, which he felt too prolifical and belittling to his skill and knowledge throughout. He thought World Poisoner would be more appropriate.
I mean, he didn't really do anything to warrant that title,
Not
but
really, no.
I mean, maybe like a bit more of a sinister nickname would have sufficed, but not world poisoner.
No, yeah.
Poison people that you worked with, mate. You didn't fucking dump a bunch of thallium into the whole water supply of a
Yeah.
country.
Yeah, you don't put everybody, Graham. Come on.
Yeah.
Get back in your cage, lad. Bloody hell. So, he hadn't reckoned with the advances made in forensic science in the decades since the death of his stepmother. However, um, and the effect of reading of tracts of his diary in which he cold-bloodedly basically lists the effects of poisons. Like, he does. He lists what
Nice.
everyone does.
What you do?
And he was found guilty on all charges on the 29th of June 1972, receiving 4 life sentences.
Wow.
4. Yeah.
Holy shit.
So the aftermath this is now of what's basically going on. So when the jury was appraised of his previous conviction and his release as a cured mental patient from Broadmoor only months before the crimes took place, they recommended an urgent review of the law regarding the public sale of poisons. The Home Secretary also announced immediate review of the control treatment assessment and the release of mentally unstable prisoners. Despite the fact that Young had been regarded as legally sane during his trial, the Arvold report published in January 1973, led to reform of the way these prisoners were monitored upon release. So obviously you got the whole thing of like probably going to sort of like a probationary officer and seeing how things are going on. That
Yeah.
sort of thing came into a fuller force and became
Wow.
more widespread after that,
Mm.
to make sure that they
Yeah.
were not killing people on the outside when they were released.
Yeah.
When asked whether he felt any remorse over his sadistic killings, he said to have replied with, "What I feel is the emptiness of my soul." That's what he
Jesus
said.
Christ, he's an edge lord as well as a fucking as a
Yeah,
poison genius.
yeah. So Young was incarcerated at the maximum security Parkhurst prison on the Isle of
Nice.
Wight, the home of Britain's most serious criminals,
Wait,
usually reserved.
Parkhurst is on the Isle of Wight?
Apparently so. Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know
I
that.
didn't know that
That's
either. I
crazy.
thought it was London. Um,
I thought it was London as well.
yeah, I didn't know it was in Isle of Wight. But usually reserved for those with severe mental conditions. Here he befriended the Moors murderer Ian Brady.
Oh God,
Yeah,
they all mingle in prison, don't they?
yeah, it's very weird. So he became infatuated with him, with a 24-year-old. Um, Although the attraction was not replicated by Brady. Yeah, described Young as genuinely asexual, excited only by power, clinical, sorry, experimentation, observation, and death. They spent considerable time together playing chess and bonding over their fascination with Nazi Germany because Ian Brady loved the whole thing about Hitler, and again he thought Hitler was had no wrongdoing in what he did.
I
Um,
didn't know that.
yeah,
I knew
Brady,
Brody
yeah,
was like was wow. It was speculated that it was can't remember her name, but the woman that he did it with
Myra
that was
Hindley.
like the ringleader. Yeah, Mara Hindley, the ringleader. But I didn't know Brady was a bloody Nazi sympathizer as well.
Yeah, so they were as bad as each other, and that's one case I want to
Hmm.
delve into at some point. But
We'll have to talk about that because I want to know. I only know like the basic surface levels of the Moors murders,
yeah,
but we need to like discuss a little bit more so we can learn
yeah.
more about it.
So basically, Brady was the first one to show Myra about Hitler and the Mein Kampf
Hmm.
book.
Oh
And
shit!
they
Okay.
both ended up coming on this like massive rant about how Hitler was actually not misled and that
Hmm.
he was doing the good thing of the people, which is fucking weird.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, so they spent a lot of time together, and Young basically sported a Hitler mustache in prison.
Oh my god! Of
Yeah,
course he fucking did.
and not just this.
What a loser!
This,
What an absolute loser!
yeah, this is very fucking weird. So as time went on, Young was thrilled when a waxwork of himself was added to the Madame Tussauds Chamber of Horrors alongside his boyhood hero, Doctor Creepin.
Wow.
They
What the
made a
fuck?
waxwork of him. Yeah.
Why would they do that?
Yeah, I
I
don't
get
know.
like he's notorious, and it sounds like it's a pretty big case, but like, God,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
very
think right.
weird.
Here's what I think. Right, I don't think in terms of like the Dungeon of Horrors thing of the Madame Tussauds, right? I don't think they should be allowed to make wax models of notorious or well-known murderers that's
Hmm.
still alive. I think they need to wait until they're dead so that they can't get the satisfaction of knowing that they're famous.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, and I've just read that wrong, by the way. It was Ian Brady who became infatuated with
Oh.
Young. Sorry,
Oh,
he was 24 at the time.
that makes more sense
But Young
because
didn't
what
like
was
Ian
alive.
Brady. Yeah, so
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Because
so
they didn't Myra and Brady they targeted young lads, didn't they?
yeah, so basically what it's saying here is Ian Brady was having like a sexual thing with Young. Like he liked the look
Yeah.
of him,
Hmm.
and Young was just like he didn't have any sort of feelings
Yeah,
for
he was just like,
sex.
nah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
he just that sexual sort of stuff wasn't his thing. But
Mm.
they spent time together and doing things like normal people would, like playing chess.
Besties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so and then he was thrilled he had his waxwork basically thought out. So I do apologize to the readers and listeners who I got that wrong. But yeah. So he died basically in his cell at Parkhurst on the 1st of August 1990 at the age of only 42. Um
Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
young. The official cause of death was heart failure, although there remains conjecture that fellow inmates who with the exception of Brady, were always extremely wary of Young, may have poisoned him, or alternatively, grew tired of prison life and poisoned himself. Um, in one final gesture of control of his life. Young's worldwide notoriety brought the effectiveness of thallium as a deadly poison into focus for the first time, and it was used extensively as a coating on US missiles fired during the
Mm.
First Gulf War.
Yeah, no, I knew that bit, but I didn't know that like this was what kicked off the whole like, hey, thallium is actually really dangerous. We should probably
Mm-hmm.
do something about it. It's like wide use in
Yeah,
public domain.
they used it as a weapon. Like, yeah, it was bad. And apparently, I didn't know this bit. This is new to me. But in 1995, the year I was born, well, hey, big shout
Mm.
out to the 90s kids. A black comedy about Young's life entitled The Young Poisoner's Handbook was released in cinemas.
That is wild. Hang on, I'm googling this film.
Yeah, in
What the
November
fuck?
2005, a 16-year-old Japanese schoolgirl was arrested for poisoning her mother with thallium. She claimed to be fascinated by Young, having seen the film, and kept an online blog similar to Young's diary recording. And she did the same thing. She did recordings of dosage and reactions on her mother. Um, and yeah, her mother.
Wow.
I don't know what if she's alive now, but back in 2005, her mother remains in a coma from then.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether she passed away or she was able to live. But that's basically the case of Graham Frederick Young.
Jesus Christ. See, right. I'm gonna get onto like more of my thoughts on that because that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
The tagline for this fucking movie, by the way,
Yeah.
is he gave his life to his research,
Yeah.
and then like two bits down, he says, "So did his family."
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that is fucking
I
morbid,
just
isn't it?
seen it. Yeah. It's
Jesus,
and it's in the same century of when he died and when he was born. Like, you
that
know.
is mad. And it was 5 years after he died as well that that movie came out.
Yeah.
That's oh man, that's weird. I don't like when society and like the public go a bit fucking doolally with people like that, where they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, we have to make a movie about this guy," even though it's a black comedy and it probably takes the piss out of him a bit. I've not seen it, but
Yeah.
I just don't. It shouldn't have been made. It's so morbid and
No.
grim. Like it's like 5 years after he died. At least wait a good few years.
Yeah.
You
There's
know,
that
no one
thing
was
though,
making
isn't
fucking
it?
Bundy movies like shortly after he was in
No,
prison.
but then saying that about Bundy, like they did make a film about him, and they also made a film about Jeffrey Dahmer as well, didn't they? And I mean, those murderers are a lot worse than this guy. I mean, yeah, all
Yeah,
right. I
yeah.
mean, poisoning people is not nice, and
No,
shouldn't
it's
be
not.
done to anybody. But
I feel like it's an understatement.
yeah,
Poisoning people's not nice. You
but
heard it
these,
here first, kids.
yeah, yeah, it's Gareth Griffiths. The murdering people is not
Don't poison
nice.
people. It's not
It's not
nice.
nice. Don't do it. Stop doing it. Mothers and fathers, stop giving your kids chemistry fucking sets, okay? It's not cool. Don't give it to
Yeah.
them for Christmas.
If you take anything away from this, if your kid shows an interest in chemistry or even like shows some red flags, the last thing you should do is give them a fucking chemistry
Yeah,
set.
yeah.
Don't give
Like
them a chemistry set.
maybe this time of life, maybe especially like, well, maybe not that time of life. I don't know if it was out then, but maybe get him a games console instead. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
like get him
there's less
something.
harmful effects with that. Like,
Yeah,
you can't kill anyone with a I mean, you can physically kill someone with a games console,
yeah.
but like you can't become like a an evil genius
Mm,
master mad scientist with a games console
no, just don't do it.
unless you take it apart and like make some sort of makeshift fucking I don't know gun or something. I don't know.
It's just like it is. It's crazy. I think and like yeah, we like to have a light-hearted like side of
Mm.
like side of view on this sort of
Yeah,
thing because you have
yeah,
to. Because I mean, if you read so many stories about murderers and what they'd done to people, you would go fucking insane yourself. And
yeah.
you
We have
know,
to make like some sort of light of it, but we're not
yeah.
like it's not the fact that we find what he did funny.
Oh
It's just
God,
that like
no.
it's so wild and out there. It's hard to take it seriously because
Yeah,
it's
and it's not
and the
just that though,
treatment
is it?
as well.
But the stuff that this guy was around, and not just him, but your killer, their signs
Mm.
were right there, and
Yeah,
it's funny because the doctor was the one that made Nanny Doss go get arrested. And in this case, it was the science teacher. Like, what the fuck are your parents doing? What the fuck are the
Like,
police doing?
I don't know. Like, I guess like it's easy reading it in hindsight and seeing the signs and going, "Oh, that's so obvious." It might not have been as obvious back then. However, with your guy,
Yeah.
even back then, even in the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
right? If someone that is known and has been convicted of their obsession with chemistry, right, and done bad things with their obsession with chemistry,
Yeah.
and people around them keep getting ill, and they don't get ill when they're not around him, fucking arrest him
Yeah.
just immediately. Like it doesn't take a genius to figure it out. And this is the thing when like, we're getting a bit political here, um but the job of the police and stuff, the amount of fucking, I don't trust the police nowadays, but the amount of
No.
progress the police and detectives and like their processes have made between like even the 80s to now is wild. Like um the what's that bloke's name? The Yorkshire Ripper,
Yeah.
right? The police in Yorkshire were ripped to fuck
They was.
for
Yeah.
their for their conduct and the way they conducted the investigation into the
Mm-hmm.
Yorkshire Ripper, and how like they didn't know shit because they were incompetent,
Yeah.
and they were like raked over the coals for it. And even like this sort of shit, the police aren't, like, no one around this guy is looking into this and going, this is highly suspicious.
Mm.
And the fact that Broadmoor certified him sane and got rid of him because they couldn't be asked.
Yeah.
And that's
Basically.
that's all it comes down to. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a case of like, oh no, he's definitely cured. He wasn't cured, and they fucking knew it. They just wanted to get rid of him because he was taking up a space that they could have get for someone else.
Yeah, true. Or does it come down to the fact that, Broadmoor was meant to be seen as this top end hospital, prison thing,
Mm,
institution rather than we could probably call it, that
mm,
cured people, and it was a case of, okay, well, he's not doing too bad. He's less assessed now with the whole chemical thing. So let's just
mm.
get him out into the public because we have to show people that this prison is working. Could it
Yeah, I think
be
it might have
that
been that as
numbers
well.
thing that they tell this guy to shut up and stop being so
Yeah.
obsessed? At least stop being so obsessed about it to other people. You can do
Mm,
it in your own cell and you can laugh
yeah.
and cry about it as much until the sun comes up, but just don't do it to anybody else. And we can put it on your report that, oh, he's not so obsessed with it now. It's out of his system now. Oh, he's cured. Nice.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it definitely comes down to that because, like you said, he even told one of the nurses, "I'm gonna kill
Yeah.
one person for every year I was incarcerated in this place,"
Mm-hmm.
and it was recorded, but not like it wasn't like
No.
followed up with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it was recorded, sent to like the upper management, and they were like, "Don't show this to anyone
Yeah.
because we need this. We need to make sure that this prison's working.
Mm-hmm.
We need to look as if we're not wasting taxpayer money on this place."
And it's not like he
Um,
succeeded either, is it? I mean, he killed three
no.
people in his lifetime. I mean,
Yeah,
three is still too many, no matter what like sort of number it is.
yeah,
Even one's too many. But this
yeah,
guy's gone on his tangent, and with the stuff he got, I mean, I'm sure he could have put an even bigger dose in a tea urn to be like, okay, I'm going to kill
yeah.
everyone in his goddamn office.
The scary thing is, right, and this is what like intrigues me the most about this specific case is the fact that like, and the scariest thing in my mind is that I don't think he wanted to. If people died from what he did, then that was a bonus.
Yeah.
But I think like he was so fucking obsessed with the process of everything. He loved and relished the results of what he was seeing. And the scariest part, if he wasn't so obsessed with the attention that he challenged the doctor, he could have killed so many more people.
That's true. Yeah.
Like if his ego didn't get in the way of his obsession, he could have gone on for years
Yeah.
and no one would have known because I reckon he got a job in a fucking photography lab on purpose because he
Oh,
was like, I'm
probably.
gonna poison people and I'm gonna do it with thallium,
Mm-hmm.
and I know it's not gonna be suspicious because they use thallium that out of their arse in photography
Yeah.
labs.
Yeah.
Like, and he knew that, and that's the weirdest part about people like that is they're so clever with it. It's makes me sick. Gross. Weird.
Yeah. It's crazy. But there we go, guys. There's two cases done today for for this little
Yeah.
podcast. There'll be another
Hope
one.
you learned something.
Yeah, yeah. Just don't poison anybody. Like,
Yeah, don't give your kid a chemistry set if he shows signs of like liking torture or
yeah.
bad shit.
And whenever you're on public
Or
transport and you're moving in a moving vehicle, hold on to something, guys. Okay, a bash to the head could fuck your life up completely.
yeah, don't hit your head on anything really heavy because you might end up killing 4 of the 5 of your husbands in your
Yeah,
life.
and then burning down their house
Um,
and then claiming their fucking insurance money from their sister.
yeah, and if you're gonna do it, don't claim the insurance money straight away. Don't be an idiot. Do it smart.
Nobody
I'm
likes an
not
idiot.
condoning murder. Nobody likes an idiot. Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was fun. It was very fun. I
Is this
think
going on Facebook, by the way?
Facebook. Well, I'll try and get it on both.
Okay, cool.
I'll probably just make a YouTube channel on it. But I think what we do next time is I think we'll try and do either a mystery or a conspiracy.
Unsolved mystery.
Unsolved mystery would be great. Yeah,
Unsolved mystery. Let's do an unsolved mystery.
that'd
Should
be
we do?
great.
Should we pick? Are we gonna? Because obviously this is the first one, but are we picking one each again, or are we gonna pick one and talk about it
I
and
mean, we
have like
can do. I
theories?
mean, right now we're up to nearly 2 hours.
Oh shit! I was gonna say let's time it, and I thought, are you timing it? Am I? I don't
Yeah, I've
know.
timed it.
I
Yeah, so
couldn't
we're recording
tell.
right
Okay.
now is 1 hour and 50 minutes.
Okay. Cool.
So
That's a pretty
that's good.
decent
Yeah,
length for a podcast, to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah. So yeah, we could do a pick each, and
Hmm.
we'll obviously just tell each other which one we're going to beforehand and not to research it, so we don't pick the same one because we have the habit of doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll come to the podcast next week. Go, oh, I'm doing, DB Cooper. Oh, I'm doing DB Cooper too. So, oh, let's just both do it together. Then balls to it. Yeah. So we'll pick one each and research it and just see what happens. I guess.
Yeah. Nice. I like it.
Nice.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you for listening, dear listener, and we shall see you again with next week's podcast of G&T's podcast of mysteries and murder. Spooky
Cheers,
music.
guys. Bye.